What's up, guys? In this video, I'm going to teach you a technique to take your anonymity with your limited liability companies to a whole nother level. All right, let's get started. So here's the deal. When it comes to asset protection and creating an anonymity structure, which you know, if you've watched my other videos, I am a strong proponent of ensuring that people don't know what I have, that when I set up businesses, I don't want a creditor to be able to say, oh, Clint's got 30 limited liability companies because my name's plastered all over them. I want to keep things as private as possible. Now, I've talked about strategies on my channel where you use a Wyoming holding company to own your state-specific LLCs, and when you create those state-specific limited liability companies, you make that Wyoming LLC the member manager. Now, it works really well for an overall anonymity structure, but there are some issues with that a creative person may not be able to find you, but when you're using that strategy, they could get a sense for how many assets are actually held by that Wyoming limited liability company because it appears on several LLCs. Now, if you're sitting there scratching your head going, what the hell is he talking about? Let me just show you what I'm referring to. Let's go over the board. Let's assume that we created several LLCs like this. And so all of these limited liability companies are Colorado LLCs. So I create all these Colorado LLCs and I set them up as member managed LLCs. So they're all owned by this Wyoming LLC right here. So everything here from these Colorado LLCs, if you're to look at the Secretary of State, you're saying, all right, who owns Colorado LLC number one? It's going to point to the Wyoming LLC, right? Simple strategy. If you watch my videos, you know I talk about this all the time. And then, of course, you're down here as the member and manager of this Wyoming LLC. So they don't see past this with this type of structure, meaning if somebody is looking here, the only thing it's going to point them to is this entity here. So if they look at the Colorado LLC number one, they see the Wyoming LLC. Now, the purpose of anonymity is to keep your name off of these structures so people don't know that Clint or John or Karen, whoever, they have all these assets, so they can't tie it back to you. Your tenants can't tie it back to you. But here's where this type of planning has one weakness, and that is when you structure it this way, right? If I looked at this LLC, let's assume that I represent someone that's injured on this property, or maybe it's different than that. Maybe it's a situation where it's a discrimination suit, maybe because you didn't rent the property, your property manager didn't rent the property to an individual. So they're asserting that there's discrimination there, whatever they're trying to do to shake you down. They look at this limited liability company here and they're going to see Blue Box LLC as its member. Now, knowing that the Blue Box is a member of this LLC, they might do this. Take this company here, this name Blue Box, and run a search in Colorado to see how many other entities Blue Box appears on. So what they would find is that Blue Box is a member of this entity and Blue Box is a member of this entity. I mean, if you had three more, all of those would pop up. So I don't see this person down here. I don't see the owner, but I do know this, that this one LLC is an active real estate investor in Colorado because of all the different limited liability companies it owns. Now, generally speaking, an LLC, the way it works is that if there's a liability brought against us, tenant lawsuit, it should stay contained inside of that structure. That's why we set these up. But maybe you didn't do something right, and there's an opportunity now for this attorney to pierce the veil of this LLC. That means they can break apart the LLC and go after the actual owner of that company. Now, one of the things about asset protection, what we do with anonymity is we want people to think that, hey, take the policy limits and don't go any further because there's no assets there to collect against. In this case, what you're going to find if someone's looking at this, they're going to say, yeah, there's definite assets there because this LLC is owned by this LLC and this LLC owns these two. And in these two LLCs, this has a house worth $500,000. This has one worth $750,000. There's assets there. So an attorney might think, all right, I want to take this on. I want to push the envelope, see if I can pierce the veil of this company, get down into here, then create havoc in this person's life. All right, so if you want to take your anonymity to a different level and you're concerned about this or you've thought about this, this technique I'm about to share with you right now is a way to do that, to cut off someone from looking at this LLC and seeing your holding company. And it's really simple. It doesn't require you set up any additional limited liability companies to do this. What I'm referring to here is what we call a personal property trust. I'm just going to call it PPT, a personal property trust. Now I'll put a link in the notes to a video on personal property trust that I've cut. So you can just go there, check on that. In fact, if you look right down here, we're going to put it right in the video itself. Right down here in the video, you can click on this link and it'll take you to that video as well on PPT so you understand what I'm referring to here. But a personal property trust, it's just a trust that you create on your own. It's a 5-page agreement, 7-page agreement, and all it is a simple trust that's designed to provide anonymity. And here's what we do. When I go to create my Colorado limited liability company here, I set up a Colorado LLC, I am going to create a personal property trust. And I'll just call it this one, we're gonna call this the Black Dog Trust. Okay, I'm going to call it the Black Dog Trust. So I'm going to set up the Black Dog Trust. I'm going to fill out this little trust agreement. We create these all the times for our clients in certain situations. I'm going to create the Black Dog Trust, and I'm going to make the LLC, I'm going to have the LLC owned by the Black Dog Trust. So the member manager of my Colorado LLC will be the Black Dog Trust. And then the Black Dog Trust, okay, so with the trust you have to have a beneficiary, that is the owner. So when I create my trust, the beneficiary of the Black Dog Trust is going to be my Wyoming LLC. So I'm adding this additional step right here. Now what I said is you don't have to file this. These are free to create, meaning it doesn't create any expense. You don't have to get a bank account set up for it. All you do is just create the trust, you sign it, and now you've got an entity that can be the member manager of this LLC. So every time I create another limited liability company, I'm going to do the same thing. So here's Colorado LLC number 2. Now, I'm not going to take number 2 and put it in the Black Dog Trust because now I'm back to the same position I was before. That is, everything will flow down to here, and a creditor of LLC number 1 is going to say, all right, LLC number 1 is owned by the Black Dog Trust, and Black Dog Trust owns LLC 2, 3, and 4. So what do you think we need to do? I know, create another trust. So I'll take this trust, the Black Dog Trust, I'll keep it all the same beneficiary, same everything, but I'm just going to change the name on it. So I'm going to create a new trust to set this one up, and I'm going to call this one the Red Cat Trust. All right, and that's going to be the member manager of that LLC right there. So I got Red Cat Trust, Black Dog Trust over here. And so when someone looks at this LLC to see who's in charge of it, it points them right to this trust. It doesn't point them to this LLC, doesn't point them to this, doesn't point them to this document as well. Now, if you're saying, well, what about the tax implications? No tax implications. What does this do to my structure? It does nothing. It's just an extra layer that you put in so people couldn't associate all of your real estate activities back to this company. And I think in situations, this is something you ought to explore with your planning, especially if you're flipping property and you're using separate LLCs and you don't want to see that it all flows back to the same entity because somebody could, try to collapse that and name all the entities in a potential lawsuit, saying there's a pattern of behavior here. And attorneys are creative in the way they go after individuals because they want to apply pressure. They want you to spend money so you'll settle and meet their demands. What I'm looking to do with my structuring is I want to take that away from them. I want them to look at it and say, hey, I'm going to take the policy limits because there's nothing else here to go after. So using a personal property trust, all right, personal property trust is the easy way to give yourself a next level of asset protection with your overall planning. Hey guys, if you like this video, hit the like button. If you haven't yet subscribed to my channel, well, now's your opportunity. Smash that subscribe button so you'll be notified every time I release new content. And if you're interested about asset protection, you'd like to come out or you'd like to attend one of my live tax and asset protection events, I have a link down below in the show notes where you are invited to come to this event, no cost. It's a one-day event. I teach it about every other Saturday. I'm going to cover everything there is to know about limited liability companies, corporations, land trusts, as they pertain to real estate investing. I'm going to show you deep strategies to show you how to get your assets protected. My partner, Toby Mathis, will talk about tax planning for real estate investors. But more importantly, what's so unique about this event is that when you're there, if you've got questions, we've got answers, because I'm bringing a team of attorneys and tax professionals with me to these Zoom events where you can type in your questions and get your specific questions answered as it pertains to you when it comes to planning. I hope to see you there.